I'm Jane. This is the Rainy Janery. Join me on my crafting and sewing adventures. Hi everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, thanks for joining me. If you are new here, definitely click the subscribe button. If you're interested in historical costuming and crafts, I do a lot of that around here, so you'll want to stick around. This is the next step in my series where I create an Edwardian gown, which is based on a figurine that was handed down to me by my great-grandmother. I'll be recreating this entire outfit from the hat to the shoes. So if that sounds interesting to you and you aren't already, please subscribe and join me as I finish all the pieces of this garment. If you missed the first couple of videos, there's a link up here to the first video, which is the project announcement, where I discuss the research, the figurine more in detail, and kind of why I'm doing this project. In the last two videos, I explored the very strange world of Edwardian underwear. So feel free to check out those. Both of those videos are linked down below. In this video, I will be fan lacing my corset so I can get it on and off more easily. And I will also be adjusting my dress form to my Edwardian corseted measurements. And I'll explain a little bit more about that later in the video. In this video, I do use the words stays and corsets interchangeably. I do realize they're separate things. At this point in history, in the Edwardian era, they were pretty much known as a corset and not as stays, but I think I just trained myself so well when I was working on my 18th century gown to say stays and not corset that now my brain just confuses them. So bear with me. If I say stays, I'm probably referring to my corset. And now I will let past Jane take over and show you how I fan lace my corset. So this is my red threaded corset. I got the 1910s mid-bust Titanic corset. And I got the option for the synthetic whalebone stays as opposed to the steel stays. My goal today is to get this relaced. It's currently just back lacing, which is fine, but it's not as easy as I would like it to be to get on and off. I really would like it to be fan laced. So after my research, there are two types of fan lacing. One of which is modern and uses these little metal, they look like little metal buckles, but they're not buckles. They have little holes in them. And they are used to run the cord back and forth through continuously. Traditional fan lacing, or I guess DIY fan lacing, is every lace in the corset is done individually and then sewn into a placket. My plan is to do the second version. I don't have the little metal buckles, so I'm just going to build it myself. So there are 14 pairs of grommets here, so I'll need 14 separate cords to go through all of those. The length of the cord will be determined by how much space you need to be able to get in and out of this. When it's finished, I should have about a 2-inch gap, the width of this ruler, in the back. But to get it on, I'll probably need more like 4 or 6 inches. So I'm gonna start with 4 inches-ish. It's about 4 inches from there, and give myself a little excess, and I can always trim this down and make it smaller, but you can't, you're kind of too short, you can't go back. want to do is figure out where the pull tabs go. Ideally would like to use a heavier fabric than the one I'm about to use. This is a canvas weight linen, but because the dress that I'm putting over this is going to be white and possibly a very lightweight linen that has some transparency to it, I want to make sure that all of the parts of this are as close to white as possible. And then I'm using a canvas because it's the heaviest weight material that I have in a white. For this much fabric, I don't really want to go out and buy something. So the next step, I'm going to lay this out with the spacing that I want when it's open, and then I'm going to pin all of the ribbons in order onto each of these pieces of fabric. So here's what it looks like with all of the ribbons pinned to the fabric. This side is more to set up the pattern, and now what I'm going to do is pin the linen to the stays to create some tension. So now I'll have to pay more attention to if these pieces are staying straight. Somehow I lost all the rest of the footage of me finishing up the fan lacing. I'm not sure what happened. The only pieces that you really missed were me sewing the plackets closed and attaching the waist ties, which was fairly simple. I will say I don't think I did the lacing as intelligently as I could have. I ended up wasting a ton of ribbon. I now have a whole bunch of sections of like 6-inch ribbon left that if I had, I think, planned it out more carefully, I could have wasted less ribbon. So I'm now trying to find things to do with random 6-inch chunks of grosgrain ribbon. If you have a project you know I can use those up on, let me know in the comments below, because I would love to know what to do with this random pile of ribbon. So now that my corset is fan laced, I took my corseted measurements and got ready to adjust my dress form. So a bit of information that I missed filming while I was actually adjusting my dress form. The dress form is a Dritz Sew Yourself adjustable dress form. I think I got it on Amazon for like $100. It does have an adjustable pole, which is great, so I can raise and lower it as I'm working on different parts of a garment. And again, back to Past Jane, who is going to show you how to adjust and pad out a dress form. Today, my goal is to get Martha here resized, repadded for my Edwardian outfit. Sometimes what you'll see is people put their corsets or a bra or something on their dress form, stuff it, and then fit their clothes around that. That doesn't quite work for me because at the moment I only have one corset in each era. And what I like to do is wear the corset while I'm working and then fit the clothes on myself, and when I can't, I throw them on the dress form. So I size my dress form to be my measurements when I'm in my corset so that that transition is easy and I don't have to worry about taking my corset on and off my dress form. So today, Martha, who is named after my grandmother, she is going to be moving from my 18th century sizing to my Edwardian sizing. I've already taken all my measurements and written them down. With my 18th century gown, it was the first time I'd ever sized her, and one of the things that immediately became apparent was an issue was that her breasts are hard. They don't flex at all. And I had sized the outside measurement for my bust measurement, but my bust is very different than hers, and so it proves to be a bit of a problem when I was trying to do the corset on and off, trying to do the bodice of the gown on and off of her. It stretched the fabric in a weird way that I don't actually stretch. So I'm going to take her down in the bust to the very smallest measurement that I can get her, and then spend a lot more time padding out the bust so that I have that squish, I have that flexibility. You ready, Martha? So the cover, Martha's cover, is made of just plain cotton jersey that I got from Joann. I just bought a bunch of extra yards. I still have a whole bunch of it actually. If I needed it, I could very easily probably make a second cover. It does look like I tied a knot in the cord down here stupidly, so I'm gonna have to cut that off to get it off. I'll just have to rerun a different piece of cord. So I just measured the dress form, and it looks like I'm gonna have to gain almost 2 inches in the bust. The waist measurement is actually great. The hip measurement, it needs to be about 1 inch smaller, but it also needs to be redistributed slightly. She is rounded out in the stomach a bit because I have a bit of a belly, but in my stays I'm much flatter in the front. So part of this is going to be, yes, subtracting, but also moving the bulk out to the hips more, which is how I'm shaped in my actual corset. You're down to 42 and a half, which means it's at 2 inches. That is almost exactly right. I'm about 1/4 inch off, which is perfect because what I'd like to do is I have these rough edges, so when I pull the fabric down over it, it's going to catch on this. So I have just enough wiggle room left. I'm just going to pad over, just do a single layer over the top of this to make it nice and smooth. It's a little over, just slightly over 44 and a half, which is my hip measurement in my corset, but I'm okay with that. I'd rather have a little bit of wiggle room and have to take things in slightly. Also, when I get the cover back on it, she kind of squishes in a little bit, especially at the bottom where the tension is on the fabric, so I'm hoping that will be taken out with that. I'm having trouble visualizing what my bust actually looks like in comparison to Martha's. So I think what I'm gonna do is put my corset on over my t-shirt really quick and just get a rough idea, check out in the mirror, get a rough idea of the shape before I actually get started. Hold that thought. Hi, so I put my stays on, and there's a mirror in the bathroom back there. Please ignore the fact that that's a bathroom. I can't help it. That's where my only mirror is. She's in silhouette in the mirror and I'm in silhouette. So I'm just gonna stand there and take some measurements and figure out how to get her to be shaped more like me. So I think one of the biggest differences between Martha's shape and my own is that her shape currently, I don't know if you can see this in silhouette, she is what Abby Cox would more call time for tea. Her breasts are pointing out that way. And in my corset, mine are much more locked and loaded. They're higher. My bust point is much higher. So I need to work on kind of smoothing this in and then raising her bust point. Not sure if I can, we will see. If you're looking for more of an in-depth tutorial, I can link Red Threaded's. She did a tutorial a couple of months ago, maybe at the start of COVID, more in depth about how to do this. If you're really wanting to like start afresh. Almost there, about a half an inch off. I think what I might do, instead of adding any more padding to the front at this point, because she's fairly well rounded, she's looking pretty good, is I might just add a little bit more rounding through the back. When I did my 18th century gown, I did notice that there was a little bit of some wrinkling and gapping in the back up here, and I think the pieces that come down from that will add enough to the bust measurement. All right, I think that should be good. Let me give one last double check to all the measurements. You almost can't measure too often on this when you're adding pieces. It's very easy, you can very quickly add too much padding. Yep, we're right about 42, which is great. And I think her bust point is actually further down here. And I raised it up so the bust point is just maybe 1.5 inches higher. So I'm hoping that will help. I think she's ready to put the cover back on. I have to relace the tie through the cover and then I'll be back and we'll put that on. All right, let's get her back on. Let's see if I can. The next question is, did I mark which side was the front and which side was the back? I think this is the front. We'll see. So if you would like a tutorial on how I made the cover, let me know. Leave me a comment below and I would be happy to film one. It's really simple. Okay, and the cover's back on. Let me check the measurements one last time and hopefully we'll be good to go. Great, and that was 44.5, which is exactly where I need it. So when I cinched that in a little bit, it pulled all of that together. So I think Martha is ready to go for the next project. So now my dress form is adjusted and ready to go with my Edwardian measurements for the rest of the build. There is a bit of a mixed response in the costuming community and the sewing community in general about adjustable dress forms. I know a lot of people look down on them a lot, And also in the same vein, I've heard people responding to those asking for advice, especially beginners, about which dress form to get, to never get an adjustable dress form. And that the only dress form you should get is a really expensive one. And frankly, I have a bit of an issue with this. If it isn't exactly gatekeeping behavior, it definitely is not inclusive of beginners and of people on all ranges of budgets. Especially during COVID, when a lot of us have lost our jobs and are trying to do this, frankly, expensive hobby on really, really tight budgets. I think one of the problems I have is recommending a physically and financially large item to someone who isn't even sure if they need it yet. Every beginner has to start somewhere, but the same reason that we don't give 16-year-olds brand new cars, or we shouldn't give 16-year-old brand new cars, is that you have to learn on something, and that tool is something that is probably going to be damaged, it's going to be broken, but what it's there for is to teach you the lesson of how to use the tool. Having a dress form can completely change your workflow, mostly for the better, but it is a tool that you need to learn to incorporate into your process. So if you are a beginner sewer, you're just starting out, or you've been sewing for a while, but you're not sure if a dress form is for you, I highly, highly recommend getting an adjustable dress form. My investment was frankly really small, and it will teach you what you need to know, and then there will become a point where you either commit to the tool and say, yes, what I really need is an actual tailor's dress form, or you will find that it's sitting in the corner, it's not the right tool for me, and then you haven't wasted hundreds and hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars on something that you aren't actually going to benefit from. Okay, rant over. Thank you for putting up with me. If you liked what you saw in this video, again, please subscribe. It would really help me out. And you can join me on the journey of building the rest of these pieces. Next week, I will be attempting to make an Edwardian petticoat. Join me for that. I do not have a lot of practice or skill in making skirts, so I'm really excited to learn the lessons in this project. If you like what I do here and would like to help my channel's growth, please click on the coffee link down in the description and buy me a coffee. Thanks for coming along with my crazy adventure, and join me next week for more crafting, costuming, and lots of fun. See you soon.